like to acknowledge everyone that today's planogram session is dedicated to the brave soldiers who have made the greatest sacrifice while defending the honor and pride of our nation. And before making and going with the webinar, I would like to brief about what is planogram and what is our today's session in a very, very minute way. Uh, Planogram is basically a by the students for the students platform wherein we aim to establish a platform wherein the academicians, bureaucrats, and top-notch policymakers could connect with the youngsters and the budding planners, budding city planners, budding architects and urban designers. Today, we have with us an extremely honored and internationally acclaimed ex-Union Railways Minister of India who is known for uh, taking the Indian Railways to revolution, as well as who is the current Sherpa to G20 and G7 nations and who is representing India in the pool of giant nations. We'll be hearing from Honorable Suresh Prabhu sir on the topic of urban development. And straight away, without wasting any of our time, I would like to hand over the virtual dais to Honorable Suresh Prabhu sir. Thank you.
Namaskar. Let me join my young friends in offering our tributes to the great soldiers, the brave soldiers who fought to save our borders, to make them more secure. I join all of you in offering our condolences to their families and assuring them that we'll all work towards making India safer, better, and greater. I firstly let me congratulate all the young friends who have thought about this idea of doing a program of this kind, particularly the organizer of this program, Piyush. I think Piyush, you are only 22 years old.
Yes, sir. Yes, I'm just 22 years old.
I
Yes.
know. So you are much, much older than I am. So,
Thank you. Yes. Yes.
so I am really impressed that your thought process is so well developed. You're so well organized. You have fantastic foresight at such a young age. So let me firstly congratulate you and also thinking about bringing together people of your generation. We have much to gain or a lot more to lose if we don't act properly in shaping our future. The problem is you always tell the younger generation, my generation, I'm much older than you. My generation will always tell the younger generation that you have to shape your own future. So first, you know nothing, no way that you can change it for a better way because already what is being done is going to impact you very adversely or even otherwise. Therefore, you are at the receiving end. But knowing you,
I request Honorable Suresh Prabhu sir to please resume his address. Thank you.
can you hear me?
Yes, sir. You're audible. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Let me firstly express my apologies for we lost the connection in between. As I was saying, there are many challenges. If you look at any issue, it's always full of challenges. But in particularly in case of urbanization, many of these challenges seems to be converging. Like if you look at the world, there's a very big problem about water. Now, where do you get water from the cities? Barring very few cities in the world, most of the cities import water from outside of the city limits. In case of Mumbai, we get it from about 200 kilometers. In case of Delhi, we get it as far as from Tehri Dam. Chennai is a net importer of water. Bangalore used to be full of lakes. Now, Bangalore itself is facing a serious water problem. So, if you really look at it, water is a big problem all over, but in cities in particular, it's a big problem. So, water is a global problem for on a standalone basis, but in cities, you will feel its manifestation on a much larger scale. Climate change, very big problem of the world. In cities of the world, you'll see climate change, or for that matter, not climate change per se, but greenhouse gas emission, which is cause of the climate change. The extent of emissions in the cities is far, far more than if you take the rural areas of the country, any country in the world. Take energy, which again, in a way, is cause of greenhouse gas emission. Depends upon what kind of energy use. The energy consumption in the cities is disproportionately high, and therefore the resultant emissions from this energy consumption also very high in the cities. Other big problem the world is facing in terms of waste disposal. The big problem of waste disposal is more manifested in the cities than in urban rural areas. And many of the cities of the world, major metropolitan cities, major mega cities of the world are also located on the coast. So they have used coast of oceans as the base for building these cities. Mumbai, good example of that. Chennai, you can take many more cities in India as well. But problem is the oceans in the world is a big challenge for humanity. because oceans are finally the biggest carbon sinks. They are home to most of the biodiversity of the world. There is a terrestrial biodiversity, a good part of that we have lost, and then there is a marine biodiversity, which is also in the oceans. And the way we live city in the cities is causing a huge negative impact on the oceans, not just in terms of waste disposal, but in any other areas. And also the oceans pose a threat to the cities because the sea level rise, which is a result of the climate change, because the glaciers will melt and eventually the sea level will rise, is also going to impact the cities very adversely. Now, putting all together, each of the problem, whether it's water, energy, climate change, emissions, oceans, on standalone basis are very important issues for all the global community as a whole, but somehow they converge and city becomes a center of those manifestations of those issues. So therefore, globally, each of these problems is important. But if you take only urban areas, urbanization, then you'll see many of these problems are being seen to be more visible in the cities of the world. And why then cities become important? More than half of the population, 3.5 billion people, live in the cities. And as per the United Nations own estimate, they will be probably more than 70%. And interestingly, this remaining 20%, incremental 20%, most of it will come from the developing countries. And that is going to happen in maybe a decade and a half. So just imagine, the problem is when people move from rural areas into urban areas, they do not carry with them the natural resources which are there behind them. When they're living in a village, there's a water body available, there's a well, there may be a pond, there may be a river. But when they migrate, they cannot bring with them like their own luggage these natural resources. So they leave behind a resource and they travel as consumer of those resources. So when they come into the city is bereft of those resources, and in fact, more people coming in is going to add more strain on the cities. Now, while saying all this, why are then cities important? One, because the cities, the urban areas, account for disproportionately high share of the global GDP. They produce more economic output than all rural areas put together. And therefore, from economic perspective, cities are very important. And from quality of living perspective, from consumption of very precious, at the same time very scarce natural resources, cities are responsible for highly consumptive way the humanity is living lives. And that is causing a different challenge for the policymakers. We need cities because they are so important from economic perspective. And cities, over a period of time, have managed to create better infrastructure than rural areas. Not necessarily good quality of life. There's a difference. When you are living in a rural area, the quality of air, quality of water, even the lack of land-based pollution is far, far better than in urban areas. But urban areas are important, and therefore only 3% of the world's land is used for urbanization. So for a planning perspective of providing service, it's very easy because only you have to provide to more than half of the people of the world, only 3% of the land, that it becomes easy to provide. But now the question comes in, how to create sustainable cities. If cities are necessary, cities are already there, how do you make them sustainable? Now, Piyush has organized this program in the backdrop of Corona, COVID. So that now gives a different dimension to this particular issue. Till that happened, because almost everybody was agreeing that there is no choice but to urbanization as a way of life. The major cities of the world are also the biggest economic centers of the world. New York or Mumbai, London or Frankfurt, it is Paris or Sao Paulo. All of them are big attraction for the slum dwell, from the rural area to come there. Of course, a different matter. I think, if time permitting, we have to think about when a quality of life. Many of them become slum dwellers, unfortunately. Mumbai, I have guessed my friend Piyush, by his name is Girgaonkar. So Girgaon is one of the very important urban cluster in a city of Mumbai. And it had its own tradition, its own culture. So Girgaonkar was considered as a protector of that old charm and that old traditional lifestyles of Mumbai, or for that matter, Maharashtra, or even to some extent India. But Girgaon was not a slum. But now most of the people who come to cities, they have to stay in slums. Mumbai was home to most important industrialized activity, not economic, industrialized activity of India. The only industrialized activity in India at that particular time was, main activity was manufacturing textiles. And Mumbai was a home to that. Maybe 500,000 workers used to work for those factories, which is called textile mills. And those mill workers, they're not slum dwellers. They used to live in not a very beautiful houses, which in Malabar Hill or other areas people will be living, but still they are better off than the slum dwellers in many ways. But over a period of time, the mills collapsed, and so are the new entrant to the cities, they became only slum dwellers. Now the new challenge I was saying was, what happens after Corona? Should we continue to work on development of our cities the way we have done in the past, or should we look at it differently? Now there are some opportunities here. But before that, Corona has put a different dimension to the way we live life. All the time we are thinking that I must go closer to the other person as much as possible, emotionally, physically, and we should try to live together as community. And living in community would mean that we have to have more and more social interactions. So Corona has now put question mark on that premise. So-called social distancing has become a new norm. And therefore, if you look at it, in almost all parts of the world, the Corona, the COVID-19, the more infected people are in the cities than in rural areas. Because of the way they live together, clustered, no room for so-called keeping that distance. In Mumbai, the trains which are called local trains, the suburban train service, I was the railway minister. The people have to struggle to get in because there is so much of crowd already, particularly during the peak hours. And then they don't have to make any effort to go out because they will automatically push out because so many people will be coming out. There is a question of keeping distance. So this is going to be a new challenge for urban planning. We have to factor that in. Then question comes of how do you make ideal cities? That gives an opportunity by using technology. Are we smart enough here to create smart cities? The cities which can work using technology as a tool to get rid of so many problems that I talked about earlier. Can we use big data and particularly Internet of Things, IoT, to work on some of the integrated solutions for the city? Can we reduce the consumption of natural resources, scarce resources like water and energy by using these technologies? By bringing in demand side solutions, whereby only when I enter the room, my light is on. When I go out, automatically consumption will come down. The water that I use can be recycled in a way that everything doesn't remain waste. If I'm going to bring water from 250 kilometers away or 200 kilometers away, depriving that rural area to have the access to that water, can I come out with new solutions wherein the used water, which contains human waste and therefore some nutrient which may be useful for the soil, can I send it back to the place from where it came in so that farmers can use it for watering their farms to make it? Is it possible to do it? Can we make land, which is, as I said, only 3% of the world land is used for more than half of the population? Can we use management of land properly? And then, if you look around, there are best practices. Tokyo metropolitan areas, the greater Tokyo area, which probably has about, I'm just using my memory, maybe 45 million people or even more. And that area, sorry, I have 4.5 million people. I'm just 45 lakhs or maybe more, but whatever number, let's leave that out because I'm just using my memory to, I never prepare a speech. So numbers I leave out so that there should not be any misquoting the number. But I'm giving example of Tokyo, or the Tokyo, extended Tokyo area. I've been there many, many times. It is very difficult to know in Tokyo whether you're entering your own house, the building of your apartment building of your own, or you are entering a railway station. There's so much completely optimal use of land. It's such a fantastically well planned city. Urban transportation is going to be a very important issue. Luckily, we are using a lot of public transport now in the cities. As it is, the cities are home to disproportionately high number of people with a very small little piece of land allocated to them. And in that piece of land, if it is not properly and or proportionately used for the largest population need, it is going to have a disastrous result. So if you use more private transport than public transport, the city's already scarce resources will be consumed in that, but also it will have very high emissions. Most of the cities in India, and for that matter in other parts of the world, but more in India, because the ambient air quality of the cities is a big issue. And one of the primary reasons for ambient air quality deteriorating is the transport. So if you use public transport, you can improve the quality of life. How do you make the lives of slum dwellers better? How can you have slum redevelopment program which actually takes into account real issue of slum redevelopment? If you can keep going, building taller buildings and use the vacated land for making public spaces, gardens. The biggest challenge of urbanization is there are not too many open areas left, because it is, as I was giving example, so much little land, and therefore we have to work on that. Other challenge of urbanization, and that is, how do you make a life of urban people better not only in terms of providing these physical facilities, how can you make them emotionally stronger? Because as it is, they are completely uprooted from their own surroundings where they were staying in a different environment. There they were knowing every person in the village. Here they don't know their next door neighbor. How do you make them emotionally strong? How do you bring cities as culture centers? Like I was giving example of Girgaon. There's a place in Girgaon called Khotachiwadi. Somebody just sent displayed it on the Twitter the other day, and then I commented on it because I've seen that place. It has old style Portuguese structure, beautiful building. Even some Mumbai, because I'm from Mumbai, that's why I'm quoting Mumbai more, though I am now speaking to you from Delhi. Mumbai has so many beautiful spots. It has still remained intact, like a time capsule. So now we have to build cities which will have emotional, cultural ethos in the person to be properly satisfied through this process of urbanization. How do you do that? And therefore, the challenge is post corona is that while we have known the challenges of urbanization, as I discussed in the beginning, we now have to plan a city without those problems. And there, technology can play a key role in terms of consumption, in terms of using recycling of water, recycling of waste, all of that put together, using renewable energy, maybe use rooftops for solar energy, bring that energy back to your homes. Many cities in the world do that. There are enough incentives given for that. And in India, where we have 300 days of good sunshine, we can use solar energy in a very extensive way. We can use solar energy for heating purposes. Of course, we don't have that problem of heating, barring few cities like Delhi and others, only for some part of the year when there is too much of cold. So we can, but that time not necessarily there is a solar energy. So energy storage is going to be another important issue which has to be developed not just for the cities, for the whole world. But planning in future, we'll have to get rid of those problems of urbanization that we experience by using good technology. But should not forget an important aspect of that is the human life is not just in terms of providing them one structure called house. There is so much more to human life than just a little shelter above their head. You must also make them emotionally, culturally strong enough. There must be more open areas where they can go and enjoy nature. There must be more areas where they can have cultural activities. There must be more areas where there can be more social interaction. Of course, now in the new light of corona, avoiding the adverse effect of contracting a communicable disease like this. All of that put together is going to be a new challenge for urban planners. But again, this is not a challenge for planners, it's a challenge of humanity. We all must realize that you cannot live in urban areas and plan it just like a plan that you prepare and then I plan it because I'm an architect or urban planner, urban designer, and somebody implements it. So there is completely impersonal nature of this. The planner, the executor of the plan, and the people who are going to use those resources are completely different. There are no connect. So if you bring that connect with the people who are going to use that finally and the people who are planning it, if there is an emotional connect, then probably you can see a much better cities than what we are seeing today. One part is plan the city at ab initio, but most of the cities are already there. So the next part is how do you rebuild those cities for avoiding all those pitfalls in the cities? How do you re-engineer the entire process of giving rebirth to the cities? That all will happen only when you consider at the heart of all this planning, heart of all this new initiative, the people who are going to live in those cities. And each city is different than other cities. Even Mumbai is different than Pune, though they are very close to each other and in the same state. So you cannot therefore plan all cities alike. You must understand the essence of that city's culture, ethos, and build around that. And in that culture and ethos, you must bring in the people themselves. And that's the challenge that we have. So I'm very happy that Piyush and his team will be the future planners. And at such a young age, you are so mature. At 22, I cannot even imagine that I could imagine to have organized an event like this. So I really congratulate Piyush Girgaonkar and his team for doing this. I wish I could have been like him, but I'm very glad that he's the one and his team is the one who will be the devising the future of the urbanization in India, or probably he will be even doing urbanization for the world. So let me stop because you might to ask me some question. Let me offer you my full support to this idea. Let me also tell you that anytime you need any help in terms of taking your own ideas forward, here is a person who is available to you, only who is senior to you in age. Otherwise, you're all more competent, qualified than I am. But I can always be with you and we'll work together. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your kind words and so many pats on the back in throughout the presentation. And I'm really amused as it was really a jaw-dropping session as you touched all the aspects of city planning and urban development, sir. It once again proved our belief that you are an institution within. It's truly amazing to have heard from you. And viewers, this is what you get to listen when a person is involved with 16 global organizations and 9 strategic dialogues. I'm really grateful that you've given and devoted your precious time with us, sir. Uh, I would like to make only one question as we are very hard on the timeline. That, sir, we have all observed that you have assumed so many offices, right from chemicals and Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers to the heavy industries, then commerce and industries, as well as civil aviation and railways. I would like to ask any particular incident wherein you talked about city planning or urban development, and was there any situation where you had to play the role of a planner?
I handle 10 portfolio as you mentioned, so includes water. So this is a
Yes.
direct relationship with the cities because that's why I was giving example of import of water. I was a Minister of Energy, so I have dealt with Minister of Power, I dealt with this energy related issues, Minister of Environment in 1998. And
Yes.
therefore, I dealt with major environmental challenges of the cities of the country to begin with, but also I used to participate in the global forums. And I have continued to be involved in 16 global organizations. And actually, I realized that unless you bring convergence, so I'm the founder of a very unique think tank called CEW, stands for Council for Energy, Environment and Water. I founded it as a founder chairman. Why? Because I realized that unless you bring all the issues together, you will not get a solution, integration. That is important. So I have in many of my responsibilities, whether you take urban transport, railways. So
Yes.
I was dealing with that. So that is also again connected with this. Or you take the most important connectivity that happens for the people is the air connectivity. I was Minister of Waste. So I dealt with many of the issues, though not as urban development uh,
Yes. Yes.
perspective alone, but all of them had direct impact on urban areas. So I have always considered the importance of urban areas in the overall development of the country. And there again, at the heart of the development issues, the human development becomes very important for me. I consider that end of the day, you may create fantastic superstructures like a city which nobody has seen before, but eventually, who has to live in those cities? The people. So if the people themselves are not happy with the way this fantastic superstructure, glossy infrastructure is created, and they themselves are not happy, what is the use of that infrastructure? So ultimately, therefore, I'm saying that all the issues, whether natural resources, which we talked about, are important. But end of the day, the people themselves have to be the major area of thrust of the planning by all the urban planners of the world.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Truly spoken indeed. As I mentioned that Mr. Suresh Prabhu sir, Honorable Suresh Prabhu sir, is an institution himself, and we are truly obliged for your kind support and the gestures you have extended to us, sir. We are truly humbled, and so are the people across youngsters across the nation. Uh, Thank you so much. As we are a bit hard, we have to give a hard stop on the timeline. I would really like to express my gratitude for devoting such a precious time and being so very accessible to youngsters like us. And I really, really am thankful for your guidance and kind support. I really want to thank all the participants who have joined with us today in the session, wherein we all seek the guidance and blessings from Honorable Suresh Prabhu sir. And everyone in the chat box is mentioning that how excellent the session was. I'm really thankful for that. And also, I would like to make a very small announcement that we'll be hosting Honorable Mr. Kunal Kumar sir, IAS, who is the Mission Director and Mission Commissioner of Smart Cities Mission, as well as Honorable Pedro B. Ortiz sir in the next to next session. He's also with us in this session today, and he has also mentioned his regards to you, Honorable Prabhu sir. I'm very, very thankful for devoting your time, and I would really like to seek blessings from you in person in future. Thank you so much for joining with us, and thank you so much for extending your warm and precious blessings. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Piyush and all your team, thank you very, very much. And I really look forward to working with you. And
Yes,
anything that I can do for you in future, please count on my support. Thank you very much. And
yes.
congratulations for such a great initiative at such a young age. Thank you
Thank you.
very, very much. All the best to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I hereby declare that the session is over. Thank you.